Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to learn about the biological functions of lipids. We're going to learn about the energy value of lipids, the digestion of lipids, and the absorption and utilization of lipids within the body. The first function is the provision of heat and energy. Lipids supply large amounts of heat and energy within the body. When they're broken down, they're very carbon heavy, and as we know, carbon heavy molecules give calories, they give energy. It's also a concentrated source of energy. Note that 1 gram of fat provides 9 calories or 37 kilojoules. That's more than carbohydrate, more than protein, more than alcohol. Can you remember how many calories are provided by 1 gram of each of the macronutrients and alcohol? Lipids are also required to keep the body at 37 degrees Celsius. The second function of lipids is that they protect delicate organs such as the kidneys. They also insulate nerve fibres. So consider fats being like a soft padding or cushioning that helps to create a little bit of shock absorption from any pressure or bangs or thumps from the outside world, any kind of physical force like banging your back against a piece of furniture, for instance. Third function. Because vitamins A, D, E and K are all classified as fat-soluble vitamins, you're only going to find them in foods that contain fat. So therefore, fatty foods act as a source of fat-soluble vitamins. On an interesting side note, cholesterol, which is also present in mainly saturated fat, is essential raw material for bile. And it's also important to note that our fat-soluble vitamins are actually based upon cholesterol. Now, cholesterol is made by the liver, and most of the cholesterol that we need will be made by the body anyway. So we don't have to go out of our way to consume foods that have cholesterol. And also in relation to cholesterol, some unsaturated foods or fats help to lower cholesterol, such as polyunsaturated fats, such as oily fish. Our fourth function of lipids is that they provide us with essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids can't be made by the body, for example, linolenic acid. Function number 5. Lipids act as an energy reserve, and any excess fat will be converted into adipose tissue. This helps to insulate the body, and it's found just underneath the skin. There's certain places in the body that the body likes this fat to be deposited, for example, around the belly and the waistline. But this also acts as a fat reserve. So when you have a balanced diet, your body's energy input equals your body's energy output. The body always prefers to use carbohydrate for energy. So if you have too much fat in your diet, because it contains so many calories per gram, it's likely that you're going to go over your calorie quota, and any excess will be converted into fat. Adipose tissue itself is loose connective tissue. Often in Leaving Cert exam questions, a question on lipids will always contain something about an associated dietary disorder such as obesity, coronary heart disease, high cholesterol and strokes. In healthy heart muscle, oxygenated blood will travel freely from the lungs back to the heart, where it can be pumped all around the body. Now, when there's an excessive amount of saturated fat and cholesterol in the diet, plaques build up along this artery that leads from the lungs to the heart. This results in a blocked blood flow, and small blood clots can accumulate around this plaque build-up. This is what will create a heart attack. We'll next look at the results of the National Adult Nutrition Survey of 2011. This is an extremely important national survey that's done every 10 years or so. So the results were that men had higher intakes of energy and all macronutrients than women did. That would make sense because men have higher energy needs. For both men and women, energy intake decreased with increasing age, which was probably due to reduced activity. Over half of the energy intake in the adult population came from meats, breads, potatoes, dairy products, and biscuits and cakes. Among the 18 to 64-year-olds, fat provided 37% of food energy on average, with 63% of the population exceeding the generally recommended upper limit of 35% of food energy from fat. So basically, you shouldn't have any more than 35% of your food energy coming from fat. Carbohydrates provided 45% of food energy on average. And note that this information is given to you now so that you get a picture of what patterns are within the Irish diet as they relate to fat for our study of lipids. This information can be used in the chapter on the Irish diet. So how much fat exactly should we be getting in our diet based upon all that information? Well, you can review the classification of lipids, the animal sources, the plant sources, and the marine sources now. Make sure you can list 3 examples of each of those classes. The easiest way to remember how much fat you should be getting from food is that 35% of your energy that you take from food should come from fat. Now, that fat should not all be the one type of fat. It should be spread out between saturated fat, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, trans. And you can see that the ratio is 10 saturated, 12 monounsaturated, 6 polyunsaturated, and very small amounts of the others. To remember the digestion of lipids, remember what created our triglyceride. They are our fat molecules, 1 glycerol and 3 fatty acids. So what the body wants to do is it wants to undergo this process of hydrolysis, which involves adding water back into that triglyceride to break it down to glycerol and fatty acids. Enzymes are also involved in this process. Before we talk about the journey of triglycerides throughout the body to be broken back down into what they're made up of, we need to remember the digestive system that we did in junior cert science. The first thing that happens is that the food is chewed in the mouth, and then it travels down the esophagus, and then in the stomach, due to the high concentrations of hydrochloric acid, the fat melts. It's valuable to know where in your body your liver is to visualize this process. So get your 2 hands and feel underneath your right rib cage, press in underneath there, and that's your liver. Inside your liver lives the gallbladder, which produces green bile. Bile's function is to emulsify fats, to break them down into smaller fat molecules. It leaves the gallbladder through the bile duct and goes into the first part of the small intestine, which is called the duodenum. In this image, we can see the bile duct going into the duodenum. Also going in there is the pancreatic duct. The pancreas, which is just in between the gallbladder duct and the duodenum, produces pancreatic juice, which contains the enzyme lipase. Lipase works on lipids and breaks lipids down into fatty acids and glycerols. This is where the real breakdown starts to take place. A combination of the bile from the gallbladder emulsifying the fats into smaller particles, along with lipase, which comes from the pancreas. In our study of the properties of lipids, we talked about emulsifiers being used to force oil and water to mix when they don't normally mix at all. So bile is also an emulsifier, and like emulsifiers, it's got a hydrophobic head and a hydrophilic tail. This attaches itself to the fat droplets, and the hydrophilic tail will go towards molecules of water, while the hydrophobic head will go towards the fat molecule. This helps to also break down the fat molecules into smaller little fat molecules, and in that way, the enzyme lipase coming from the pancreas can work and break them down into glycerol and fatty acids. This chart describes what happens in the liver and the pancreas, and we can also see that the ileum, or the small intestine, also produce or secretes intestinal juice, also containing lipase. Before we talk about the absorption and the utilization of lipids, we will discuss what the lymphatic system is. All you need to know is that it works side by side with the circulatory system, that is the heart, the veins and the arteries and the blood and the capillaries. You can feel your lymph nodes around your neck, your groins and underneath your armpits. Sometimes they get a little bit big if your immune system is compromised. Before we go further, let's reflect on what villi are. Villi are finger-like projections that are coming out of your small intestine. They're covered in little tiny hairs. They're only 1 cell thick, and this enables absorption to take place. Now within each of those finger-like projections that are really, really tiny, you've got a blood capillary that's going up and down it, and also a lacteal, which is attached to your lymphatic system. The lacteal absorbs fatty acids and glycerol, and the blood capillary absorbs simple sugars and amino acids. You can see that in a little bit of a larger drawing here. We've got our blood capillaries absorbing amino acids and sugars, and our lacteal, which are absorbing glycerol and fatty acids. The lacteal will leave the villi and congregate into the lymphatic system. So after bile helps to emulsify fat and breaks the fat molecules down to smaller fat molecules, and the pancreatic juice produces lipase to break down the molecules even further, and the intestinal juice from the small intestine also produces lipase and breaks down the fatty molecules into glycerol and fatty acids. All of this goes throughout the digestive system and leaves, when it's broken down, it leaves out of these villi, these hair-like projections, out the lacteals, which we can see there. Now the lacteal goes to the lymphatic system, which all congregates in the thoracic duct. The thoracic duct is about around your 12th rib. It runs lengthways along the same length as your spine, okay? So you can see there's your thoracic duct going alongside the spine, up all the way through the center of your body to the subclavian vein. So it's quite amazing that the fats get broken down in your small intestine, leave outside these little finger-like projections inside your small intestine, congregate into the lymphatic system, go up the center of your body, up towards your neck, out your neck, and then down into the heart, where the fats can be pumped around throughout the blood all around the body. And there's your subclavian vein around your neck. And you're never going to be asked more about the subclavian vein except to know that it is around your neck. It doesn't go around your neck, but it comes out from your neck. So thank you for following this tutorial all the way to the end. Here's some of the references that I used besides the textbooks. This Fox and Cameron's Food Science, Nutrition and Health is an excellent book if you ever want to dive deeper into nutrition. It's a very good follow-on book from Leaving Cert level into more complicated college level. I hope that these videos help you just to remember the essentials. I've endeavoured to go into more detail so that you can remember the main points. Best of luck.